The battle was already lost. Far from the safe world of the galaxy, an alien defense fleet was breaking apart. Burning ships drifted in space, their lights fading one by one. Enemy vessels surrounded them like shadows, moving without fear. Every shot fired by the Alliance seemed useless. Commander Valen stood on the bridge, watching the damage reports appear on the screen. His fleet was outnumbered, outmatched, out of time. Shields at 10%. An officer said quietly. Another voice followed. "We have no more reserves." Valen clenched his claws. He had trained for war his entire life, but nothing had prepared him for this. The enemy was not just strong. It was cruel. It hunted broken ships instead of finishing the fight quickly. There was only one option left. A junior officer hesitated before speaking. "Commander, there is one signal we can send." The bridge fell silent. Valen already knew what that signal meant. An old record, a forgotten contact, a species the galaxy feared almost as much as the enemy. "Humans," someone whispered. Stories rushed through Valen's mind. Humans who refused to retreat. Humans who fought harder when wounded. Humans who did not follow the rules of war. "They are unstable," an officer said. "And dangerous," another added. Valen stared at the stars beyond the glass. If the legends were true, calling them could save his fleet or doom the entire system. A massive explosion shook the ship. Another Allied vessel vanished in fire. Valen made his choice. "Send the signal," he said. "All channels, all power." The transmission launched into the void. As silence returned to the bridge, Valen whispered to himself, "May the galaxy forgive us for what we just called." After the signal was sent, nothing happened. No reply, no confirmation, only the cold silence of space. Commander Valen stood still as seconds turned into minutes. Around him, the bridge crew worked in quiet fear. Every sensor showed the same truth. The enemy was closing in again. "Maybe they did not hear us," one officer said. "Or maybe they chose not to answer," another replied. Valen said nothing. Deep inside, doubt began to grow. To pass the time, an old archivist officer opened forbidden files. Ancient war records. Stories no one liked to remember. All of them had one name in common. Humans. They were once a small species from a weak world. At least, that was how the galaxy first saw them. But when war came, humans did not fight like others. They did not wait. They did not ask for peace. They attacked with full force. One record showed a human fleet fighting, while their own ships were burning. Another described humans chasing an enemy across 3 star systems, refusing to stop. "They do not know fear," the archivist said softly. "No," Valen replied. "They know it. They just ignore it." A sudden alarm cut through the bridge. Enemy weapons charging. The Alliance fleet tried to regroup, but morale was gone. The enemy ships moved closer, confident and calm. Valen looked at the dark space where the signal had been sent. Regret tightened his chest. Maybe calling them was a mistake, an officer whispered. Before Valen could answer, the sensors screamed again. Multiple energy spikes detected. Unknown signatures. Space itself began to bend. Stars stretched like thin lines. Something massive was forcing its way into the system. Valen's eyes widened. Whatever was coming was not part of any known fleet, and it was answering the call. Space twisted like a wounded thing. The stars stretched and broke into thin white lines as something forced its way into the system. The bridge lights flickered. Sensors failed for a moment, then came back screaming. "Visual contact!" an officer shouted. Out of the distortion, massive ships appeared. They were nothing like Alliance vessels. No bright colors. No symbols of pride. Only dark metal and sharp edges. Their hulls looked old, scarred, and heavy, as if they had survived countless wars. One ship stood at the center of the formation, larger than the rest. Silent, watching. Fear spread across the bridge. "These are not defense ships," the archivist whispered. "These are war machines." The enemy fleet paused. For the first time since the battle began, they hesitated. A signal broke through the static. "This is human command," a calm voice said. No anger, no emotion, We receive your call. Commander Valen stepped forward. His voice shook, but he forced it steady. This is Alliance Fleet Command. We request immediate assistance. There was a short pause. Understood, the human replied. Mark hostile targets. Valen gave the order. Enemy ships lit up on the human displays. The human commander spoke again, still calm. So these are the ones hurting you? Yes, Valen answered. Another pause. Then the human said, Good. Human ships moved forward. Not fast, not slow, just confident. Weapons powered up across the Dark Fleet. Energy levels rose beyond anything the Alliance had ever seen. The enemy tried to react. They were too late. As the first human cannons charged, Commander Valen realized the truth. The galaxy had not called for help. It had called for something far worse. The human fleet attacked without warning. There were no speeches, no demands, no threats. One moment, space was silent. The next, it burned. Human weapons fired in perfect rhythm. Bright lines of energy tore through enemy shields like they were nothing. Entire ships vanished in seconds. Explosions lit the darkness again and again. The Alliance fleet could only watch. These weapons, an officer whispered, they are breaking enemy armor. Humans did not stop. Smaller ships moved forward, flying directly into danger. They came close. Too close. At point-blank range, they fired again. Enemy vessels tried to regroup. It failed. Human ships changed tactics instantly. When one path was blocked, they forced another. When a ship took damage, it stayed in the fight. They are not retreating, Valen said quietly. An enemy cruiser rammed a human ship. The impact shook space itself. The Alliance gasped, expecting destruction. The human ship exploded. But instead of falling back, 3 more human vessels surged forward, surrounding the enemy cruiser. Their fire was merciless. The cruiser did not survive. They lost a ship, an officer said. Why are they pushing harder? Valen understood. Because they are angry now. The enemy finally showed fear. Their formations broke. Some ships tried to flee. Human ships chased them. They did not allow escape. They hunted. Boarding pods launched from human vessels, smashing into enemy hulls. Close combat began. No mercy. No delay. The Alliance had never seen war like this. This was not defense. This was punishment. As enemy signals turned into screams and static, Valen realized the truth the galaxy had ignored for too long. Humans were not the galaxy's last hope. They were its final weapon. The enemy fleet was no longer fighting. It was running. Ships that once moved with confidence now turned in panic. Engines burned at maximum power as they tried to escape the battlefield. Some collided with each other. Others shut down systems, hoping to hide. Human ships followed. They did not rush. They moved with purpose, cutting off every path. Whenever an enemy ship tried to flee, a human vessel appeared in its way. This is not a chase, Valen said slowly. It is a hunt. The enemy flagship finally reacted. It was massive, covered in thick armor and powerful shields. It turned toward the human fleet and fired everything it had. The shots hit a human cruiser. The Alliance crew held their breath. The human ship shook. Smoke poured from its hull, but it stayed in position. A calm human voice came through the channel. Damage noted. Continue attack. The human fleet focused fire. One section of the enemy flagship cracked. Another followed. Systems failed one by one. Boarding craft launched again. Inside the enemy flagship, chaos spread. Human soldiers moved to the corridors without hesitation. They advanced through fire and darkness. They did not slow down. The enemy leader sent a desperate message across all channels. What are you? The reply came instantly. Human. Minutes later, the flagship fell silent. Its power core collapsed, tearing the ship apart from the inside. The remaining enemy ships surrendered. Silence returned to the battlefield. Commander Valen looked at the human fleet. They did not celebrate. They did not cheer. They simply held formation. Fear had changed sides. The monsters that once ruled this region were gone, and the galaxy now knew who the real monsters were. The battlefield grew quiet. Broken ships drifted through space, no longer firing, no longer running. Rescue teams from the Alliance moved carefully, still afraid the silence might break. The human fleet remained in place. Dark ships, perfect lines, waiting. Commander Valen stepped forward and opened a secure channel. His voice was calm, but heavy with truth. "Alliance Command thanks you," he said. "Without your help, we would not be here." There was a short pause. The same human voice replied, steady and emotionless. "You were under threat. You asked for support. We responded." Valen hesitated. "The galaxy fears you," he admitted. "Now I understand why." The human commander answered simply, "Fear keeps people alive." The human ships began to move away from the system. No victory display. No demands for reward. They were already leaving. Before the signal closed, Valen asked one final question. "If this happens again, will you answer?" The reply came without delay. "Call sooner." The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, records were updated. Old warnings were rewritten. Human files were no longer marked as unstable. They were marked as last resort. Students would study this battle in the future. Leaders would remember the choice Valen made. And enemies would think twice before attacking worlds protected by humans. Because now the galaxy understood a simple truth. Humans were not heroes. They were not villains. They were the reason monsters stopped winning wars. And whenever the galaxy faced extinction, one rule would remain. Never fear calling humans. Fear what happens to those they fight.